I've spent almost 4 years running email for a B2B industrial brand. We were able to initially double their email revenue and eventually increase it by 7x in just a few months.
My name is Houcem. I run an industrial business-to-business e-commerce website, and I have been working with Houcem. We got up to 7 times our email marketing revenue just last month.
The next few minutes are going to show you exactly how. Let's talk about the market here. You have the D2C e-com space, which is $2.93 trillion, and it has been growing by an average of 13% per year. However, you have the broader B2B market, which only grew by 0.4% last year, which means that you have a very fast growing category sitting inside a stale category. That means that more brands and also more customers are now switching to e-com. So let's talk about the 3 things that make B2B e-com a completely different game than D2C. So the number one thing is going to be the average order value and the reorder cycles. The average order value for B2B is typically 3 to 10 times higher than D2C, sometimes even more. You have the reorder cycles baked into the business, unlike for D2C, and you have the repeat buy-in is the default here and not the exception. It takes way more to retain a D2C customer, and the reason is mainly friction, because the buying decision for B2B has to go through multiple people. So it takes way more for them to switch providers. So if you have good products and they like your company, they are more likely to stay with you. However, this is changing fast because of this second stat here, which is about self-serve. So according to Forrester, 73% of B2B buyers now prefer digital. This is actually a surprising stat. I expected this number to be much, much lower. However, it seems that more buyers prefer ordering online now than talking to a sales rep, which means that for most of your pipeline, email is actually a sales motion. It's not just a marketing channel. This actually is an advantage and also a disadvantage. The advantage is that it's going to save you a lot of time because email is very low cost, but the disadvantage is that it's becoming easier for people now to switch providers. So let's talk about the third difference, which is the CLTV math, probably the most important metric in e-com here. So we have D2C customer spends around $200 over their lifetime. For B2B accounts, it's around $50,000 to $500,000. So again, this depends on the business. This means that every account you lose is a catastrophe. So retention becomes incredibly crucial here. So email's real job is going to become not just protect, but also expand the most valuable asset you own, which is your customer list. So let's talk about the reframe here. Email is no longer only a marketing channel for B2B e-com. It's also a sales channel now. So it will help you close new accounts and also expand existing accounts. Let's quickly go through the 3 biggest myths for B2B e-com here. The first one is customers reorder when they need to. I hear this a lot in the B2B space, and I believe this is the most expensive belief in e-com because the reorder cycles drift. So we have a 90-day customer becomes 130 days and then eventually churn. And there are a few reasons for this. The first one is going to be competitors poaching your customers. Again, as more customers switch to ordering online, it becomes much, much easier for competitors to take your customers. The second one is procurement consolidated vendors and you didn't make the shortlist. And the third one, they simply forgot about you because you weren't staying top of mind. Maybe they ordered a part from you a while ago, but let's say now they need a different product. Since you didn't stay top of mind, you didn't show them exactly what kind of products you are selling, the unique selling propositions, how they are different from the competitors. They simply forgot and maybe went ahead to Google, searched, and went with a competitor of yours. So this drift means 15 to 30% of lost revenue for you per year. So myth number 2 is going to be we tried email, but it did not work for us. So here's what I see here. And it's mainly because a lot of B2B e-com companies, they work with D2C providers or maybe D2C agencies. And what happens is that these agencies are going to apply D2C strategies, which do not translate very well for B2B. A big thing that I see is newsletters, which do not work as well as they did 10 years ago. So I see a lot of B2B brands sending weekly or monthly newsletters that are very heavy in text and they have a lot of links, even like external links. So these do not work incredibly well. And the third thing is the heavy reliance on discounts, which will do 3 things. So the first thing, it will definitely devalue your company long term. The second thing, it will condition your subscribers to wait for these discounts to buy. And the third thing is that it's just going to eat into your margin. So you don't have a real system that works for B2B specifically, which will result in you having a 5 to 10% attributed revenue instead of 25 to 40%. So if you take a look at your email platform, let's say Klaviyo or another platform, and check your attributed revenue, if it's below 25%, then you're losing out on quite a lot of extra revenue. So the third biggest myth is going to be sales team handles it. Email is just a nice to have. Sales reps are definitely very important, but they only handle one-to-ones. So that's their lane. What they can't handle is 400 mid-pipeline accounts kept warm between quotes. So it's very important to stay top of mind, to not lose your customers to other competitors. The second thing is that they cannot put a case study in front of a stalled prospect or even at risk of churn customer. The third thing is that they cannot reorder nudge the exact week before your customer runs out. And the fourth thing is going to be onboarding new accounts without a rep on the phone. So technically speaking, the sales reps can do all all of these, but it's going to be incredibly costly for your business. On the other hand, email here does all of this at a marginal cost for your business. So let's talk about the only two ways to grow a B2B ecom brand, or any brand for that matter. So the first one is to get more new customers, and the second one is going to be to get existing customers to spend more money with you over time. Email is the only zero marginal cost or close to zero marginal cost channel that moves both levers. A lot of people think of email as just a retention tool, but it's also an acquisition tool. It will help you convert more of your existing traffic into first-time customers that you can turn into repeat customers. The great thing about email is that it will help you improve the three most important metrics in ecom. The first one is going to be the conversion rate, second one is going to be the average order value, and the third one is going to be the customer lifetime value. When you improve all of these three metrics, instead of a 5 to 10% attributed revenue to email, now you have 25 to 40% of attributed email revenue. So let's go through how email improves all of these metrics here. So let's say, for example, you have brand A and let's say you have brand B here. So brand A, let's say, for example, you are sending 1,000 visitors to your website from paid media. Let's say you are using Google Ads. And let's say that your conversion rate is around 1% here, which is a little bit different from D2C. For D2C, it's around 3%. For B2B, it could be even like 0.5% or 1%. Again, it depends on your average order value. The higher the AOV, the less conversion rate you're going to have. So this means that you are able to convert 10 customers. And let's say that the average order value for your brand is around $500. This means that you were able to generate $5,000 from 1,000 visitors to your websites. So this is a standard funnel for B2B ecom. So let's talk about the brand B now. And let's say that you are sending the same 1,000 visitors to your website. However, instead of converting only 1%, so basically those 10 customers, you are now able to capture 5% of those people and convert them into subscribers because you have a capture mechanism in place, whether it's an opt-in form or a pop-up or something like that. The opt-in rate here will depend on your business, of course, and it will also depend on the offer or incentive that you are offering. Let's say, for example, that you are capturing 5% of your traffic. So now you have 50 subscribers being nurtured by your welcome flow. So as soon as someone opts in, they will typically receive the welcome flow. For our clients, we have 7 to 10 different touch points because it takes more touch points for a B2B customer to convert, just because the average order value is higher, where we typically answer their questions, we overcome their objections, offer them assistance, and try to turn them into first-time customers. So let's say that those 10 high-intent people go ahead and place an order. So these are the same 10 people here. These people do not need a lot of touch points because they were already about to place an order anyway. And let's say that you are offering a 10% discount on a 500% average order value. That means that with 10 customers, you are now able to generate $4,500. So basically the 5,000 here minus the 10% coupon that you offer to these 10 customers. So from the look of it, it seems that you have generated $500 less than scenario A. However, the advantage here is that now you have 40 subscribers going through your welcome flow. So let's say that you were only able to convert 10% of these 40 people into subscribers, which means that you now have 4 new customers that are spending $450 each because they used that 10% coupon we talked about before. This means that you are now able to generate $1,800 extra when you add it to the $4,500 from the previous 10 customers. Now you have been able to generate $6,300. When you compare it to brand A, which has only generated $5,000, it means that you now have $1,300 of extra revenue that you can reinvest at the top of the funnel. So you are able to acquire more customers and scale faster. And this is only with the welcome flow. We haven't even talked about the rest of the automations and the campaigns as well. So for our clients, we have abandonment flows. This is the site abandonment flow when someone visits your website and then bounces. And browse abandonment flow when someone browses a particular product and then they abandon. You have the cart abandonment, someone adding to cart and then abandoning. And you have checkout abandonment as well, which means someone initiated checkout and then they abandoned it. And the objective of all of these automations is to overcome your customers' objections and try to get them one step closer to the purchase decision. Imagine if you are able to convert a couple more customers from these abandonment flows. And this doesn't even stop here. As soon as someone places an order with you, they go into the post-purchase flows. So these are basically designed to onboard the customer properly and also reduce their buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse is typically higher for D2C than B2B, but it still exists for B2B as well. So the way I think about new customer onboarding is exactly the same as onboarding a new team. If you have a really good onboarding process, if you educate them well, if you show them detailed SOPs, if you offer them a lot of assistance, they are less likely to churn. So again, the first objective of this is going to be onboarding. And the second objective is going to be to try to increase increase the immediate customer lifetime value. So let's call it immediate CLTV. And the way we do this is through upselling, through cross-selling, through replenishment flows as well. For example, 1 week before someone runs out of a replenishable product, they receive this flow. We have win-back flow that tries to bring back customers who are at risk of churn as well. So the main objective here is to try to get that second order or third order. And it doesn't even stop here. As soon as someone places their second order or third order, they go through our loyalty flows. We have, for example, VIP flows, where we treat these people a little bit differently than the rest of the list. They get our best offers. They hear about our new products first. So we try to treat them differently because these people are going to end up spending the most money with you. So when you look at the role of email here, you are basically extracting more value out of the same amount of traffic that you are sending to your website. And assuming that you are paying for traffic, let's say that you are using Google Ads, for example, it becomes incredibly important to try to capture and convert as much of that valuable traffic as possible. Let's go back to the presentation here. So let's talk about the reasons why D2C playbooks fail in B2B. And this is a problem, especially if you hired a D2C contractor or an agency before and you didn't see results. The first one is going to be the discount reflex. A lot of D2C providers, they just try to slap a discount on every flow and campaign. And this does not translate very well for B2B. And it also depends on context. For example, if most of your customers are small businesses, this could work. However, if you're working with larger companies, what they care about the most is net terms, free samples, technical data sheets, case studies, a call with an engineer, or bulk tier quote builder. So if you try to apply the same strategies from D2C, you will be leaking a ton of margin here. The second reason is going to be the specifier/signer gap. So for D2C, you have the reader as the buyer, so the same person, you have only one motion. However, for B2B, this is true less than half of the time. So you basically have 70 to 80% as engineers, you have maintenance, repair, and operations technicians, and small shop owners as well. So let's say, for example, someone has a $25,000 order. The engineer is going to specify first, MRO is going to approve, and then you have the procurement negotiates, and then you have the finance signing off on this order. And what these people care about are not discounts necessarily. So what they care about the most is spec sheets, ROI math, compliance docs, or a case study from a company that looks like theirs. For D2C, it's a little bit different. Basically, check out this new SKU. Here's 15% off, and you're good to go. So a good B2B email does two jobs at once. So the first one is going to be selling the reader, and the second one is that they need to arm the reader with proof they can forward internally. So let's go through the third reason, which is content plus proof mismatch. So for D2C, you have vibes, lifestyle photos, feel amazing, ships today, works for impulse. So a lot of the D2C purchases are based on impulse. However, for B2B, a lot of it is based on consideration. So the B2B buyer does not make impulse decisions. They sign off on parts, they keep a factory running, which means that the wrong supplier, they need to own that failure, and the downtime is going to be incredibly costly for the company. As I mentioned before, what they care about is spec sheets, certifications, compliance docs, real customer names, real use case studies, real numbers, and photos of the product working in the field. For D2C, it's a little bit different. If you worked with a D2C agency before, here's what they typically try to do. They try to push your team for lifestyle shoots that do not exist in B2B. And then when you push back, they basically use stock photos or templated copy. And the result is the emails might look nice, but they convert really, really badly. But for B2B emails, they are typically less polished, but they have more proof. Less feel the moment, more here's what this part does, who else uses it, and why it won't fail you. So if this sounds familiar to you, it's not you, it's not your team, it's not your products, it's just the playbook that you are using. So if you used email before and it hasn't worked really well for your brand, it just means that you don't have the correct system installed in place. And for this, I'm happy to offer you a free in-depth audit of your email program where I show you exactly what's missing, what could be improved, and how much more revenue you will be able to generate when all of the improvements are implemented. This is not some random generic report that was created by ChatGPT or Claude. This is 8 to 10 pages of expert recommendations specifically tailored to your brand. So the framework that we typically use for this audit, as well as for our clients' work, is composed of 9 main pillars, or I like to call them levers as well. The first one is going to be deliverability. If your emails are not hitting the main inbox, then literally nothing else matters. You're just wasting your money here. The second one is arguably the most important levers, because the more of your valuable traffic that you potentially spent money acquiring, the more of it you can capture and nurture, the more of it you will be able to convert into first time and then eventually repeat customers. The third one is going to be flows and automations. These are the closest thing to passive income, if such a thing existed. The fourth thing is going to be campaigns. So it's very important to stay top of mind on a weekly basis. So when the time comes, the customer is going to order from you and not order from a competitor of yours. The fifth lever is going to be designing high converting emails for B2B specifically and not for D2C. The sixth lever is going to be segmentation. Again, this is one of the biggest biggest red flags I see in the account say audit, and it will not only cost you revenue and profit, it will also ruin your deliverability. The 7th lever is going to be analytics. You can't improve what you don't track. The 8th lever is going to be continuous A/B testing. We like to A/B test the highest leverage things that will result in the biggest impact for the business. And the 9th lever is going to be SMS if your business uses that. So if you're interested in this free audit, just click on the first link in the description to schedule a quick call with me. See you in the next one.